Talk to David Henig, Director of the UK Trade Policy Project at the European Centre for International Political Economy. David, you're a veteran, an old hand on this kind of stuff. I mean, how significant might this UK-China reboot, if we can call it that, how significant might it be?
Well, that's right. I think it is a reboot. This is a new UK government. It's a pretty pragmatic UK government. Your correspondent mentioned it's a government that's looking for growth and sees China as a potential source of growth. It also has priorities such as the green economy, the net zero challenge, and again, working with China on that could well be an avenue forward. So at this stage, for this government, still very much in its early stages, it really is looking to basically start building up its international relations and see where that can take it in terms of meeting its domestic goals.
How easy is it to have an improved relationship with China despite the very clear differences between the two countries?
Well, I mean, there clearly are differences of opinion on various topics, not least, I think, of which would be Ukraine and the conflict there. That being said, you know, the UK has in many ways under this government reverted to a traditional role of being a pro-trade economy at a time when barriers are coming up. And that's a subject on which I think the UK and China would potentially find agreement on. That's something China also wants to push at the moment, particularly with the EU and the US putting up various trade barriers. The UK has not put in place any tariffs against Chinese-made electric vehicles, unlike the EU, the US, and Canada. So at this stage, you know, there is the potential for the UK and China working together, but there are some problems coming over the hill on that one.
I wonder if you might be referring to President-elect Trump, who, of course, will soon be in the White House. Will the UK be torn between a warmer relationship with China and Washington?
Certainly, if President Trump fulfills his aim of getting really tough on China and threatens to put tariffs on countries like the UK, one of the criteria he might have for not putting the UK subject to those tariffs will be that we join the US in that policy towards China. What the UK government, I think, will try to do is to maintain good trade relations with all countries, because that's part of the heritage, really, of the UK. But I think Trump, once president, I think he's going to make that very, very difficult. So, in a way, good, I think, that that Starmer and Xi Jinping are meeting today ahead of Trump's arrival, so they can at least start to build a relationship, given that tricky times come from January next year.
What's in this for China?
Well, my impression from talking with Chinese government officials over the years is that they want a strong relationship with the UK. They do see the UK as being, an important country in terms of upholding, for example, global trade rules. The UK, of course, is still a decent-sized market as well, a relatively large economy globally. So and also potentially a country which, as I say, won't put up the barriers as much as the EU and the US will. So there are some grounds for China engaging. Clearly, the relationships with the EU and the US are more important to China, but I don't think the UK is irrelevant in this. And sometimes folk in the UK try to put ourselves down, but I think that China does want a strong relationship with the UK as well.
David, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming back on the programme. David Henig, Director of the UK Trade Policy Project at the European Centre for International Political Economy.